Hello, I'm Rod Walker. My wife Maggie and I are landowners in western Albemarle County, and we're two of the founders of the Blue Ridge PRISM. So today I'm going to talk about why are invasive plants a problem, what you can do about it, where you can learn more, and provide an introduction to the Blue Ridge PRISM, along with some things you can do and some useful reference materials. So first of all, what is the problem? So I describe this sometimes as a slow motion tsunami that's going on around us. Most people don't even know it's happening. We've got native plants being replaced by overseas invaders. And most of those overseas plants, non-native plants, were brought here on purpose with good motives, but with no understanding at all of the risks of unleashing them on our landscapes. Now, don't get me wrong, most non-native plants are not a problem. Most of them are not invasive, at least, but a few of them are really serious problems because here they have no bugs, fungi, grazers, caterpillars that keep them in check. They have a tendency to leaf out early, stay green late. They adapt to almost any location. They're prolific seeders. They have advantages that our native plants don't have, plus which the deer eat our native plants and don't eat these by and large. So why is this a problem? Well, first and foremost, nothing stops them. Think about that. Nothing stops them. What that means is they keep going. They create monocultures that overwhelm all the native plants. Many of them spread really fast, and they wind up rendering large areas impenetrable and unusable. The costs to manage them are going through the roof. And to make matters worse, in the local food web, they are largely sterile. That means they don't support our native insects, birds, mammals, etc. And as these plants spread and multiply, what that means is we have fewer native insects, birds, and mammals. So here's some examples. So here's Oriental bittersweet. You can see it growing up into the trees. It grabs the sunlight, it weakens the trees, it puts incredible weight. These vines get really, really big and heavy. And eventually in a storm, the tree comes down. And that opens the forest canopy. It provides sunlight to the floor of the forest, and the plants, the native plants, and the non-native plants in particular, and the vines, grow even faster. So here's kudzu, another example of a vine, just covers everything and overwhelms everything in its path. We got bamboo here on the left, just covers everything, it spreads aggressively. Japanese honeysuckle, common vine. If you've got a fence row, you've probably got Japanese honeysuckle on it. English ivy, planted by lots of people, a good landscaping plant, unless you let it get away. It'll grow up the trees and spread through the forest, just like the other vines. Porcelain berry, less common, not known by most people, but it's just as bad as the others, and it is certainly in our area. Here's William Hambersky, who collected all the seeds from an ailanthus tree, tree of heaven, stink tree, paradise tree. 43,000 seeds from this medium-sized tree. The big trees have a lot more. Autumn olive, here's autumn olive seedlings. It's filling a field. This field was mowed 7 months earlier. If left alone, what's going to happen here is this field will be filled with shrubs, autumn olive shrubs 8 to 12 feet tall. Nothing else will grow underneath them. It'll be totally impenetrable. The space will be just occupied by autumn olive, period. Bradford pear was sold by the millions by the landscape industry as a self-sterile plant, which it was at the time, until they decided to sell other cultivars of the Callery pear. Then it started reproducing and spreading all over the landscape. Garlic mustard, many people are familiar with this. This is in mid to late spring where it's bolted. You can see the skinny little stems with the flowers on the tops. Just creates this monoculture underneath the forest canopy, just fills in the understory. Japanese stiltgrass also fills in the forest floor. This is young. It can get to be a couple of feet tall and makes it very difficult for anything else to grow there. Here's the U.S. Forest Service picture of invasive plants in the U.S. So the red areas being more intense invasive plants. So you can see that's really focused on the eastern half of the U.S. up into Virginia. We've got lots of invasive plant issues here. So this really comes as challenges at all levels. We've got invasive trees replacing the native trees. We've got the vines. of various different kinds, tearing down the canopy that eliminates the forest and creates green mounds. This impacts not just the forested areas, but if this happens along streams, it increases the sunlight reaching the streams, the temperature of the water goes up, and what's growing in the streams changes as well. The shrubs fill in the fields and the forest understory. The grasses smother the natives and even slow or prevent the regeneration of trees. It's hard for things to grow up through these monocultures. In addition to the terrestrial plants, we do have aquatic invasive plants that fill in ponds and streams. This impacts the fish and the aquatic wildlife. It creates danger actually for boaters and swimmers, and generally reduces recreational opportunities. So where does all this lead? Well, if we do nothing more than we're doing today, these plants will continue to overwhelm and eliminate the forests and meadows as we know them. Wildlife populations will also continue to decline. Our grandchildren, a couple of generations out, are going to look back and say, why didn't we do something? Because what they're going to see is not what we see today. So here comes the Blue Ridge PRISM. We have two primary activities. One is to work with landowners and help them in our 10 county targeted area. We help them with the removal and replacement of invasive plants. And then in the last year or two, we started also working to help solve the invasive plant problem across the entire state. We'll talk about both of these here. So the people involved with the PRISM, these are, many of them are shown here on this page. The left-hand list starts with the Shenandoah National Park Trust, who's been our wonderful fiscal sponsor for the last 6 years. We've now just moved out from under their umbrella to become Blue Ridge PRISM Inc., our own standalone 501c3. The other organizations on the left-hand side were our steering committee and are now becoming our advisory council. And the organizations on the right are other partners that we work with in various ways at various times. So here's the map of our 10 counties where we focus most of our landowner work. We start with Nelson and Augusta to the south, go up the Blue Ridge, including the entire national park, up to Clark County. That's almost 3 million acres, roughly 50,000 landowners who own 5 acres or more. The things we do for landowners, quarterly meetings with featured speakers. This is all done now by video conference. We used to table at lots of events with our exhibits and hand out materials. So we don't do that at the moment because those events have largely all been canceled. We do speaking engagements. We've always done speaking engagements. We do almost as many now as we used to because we can now do them by video teleconference. And so if you've got a group who would like a featured speaker for one of your monthly or quarterly meetings or at a conference, and we're definitely available. Workshops, these are landowner education sessions where we show how to identify specific plants as well as the different techniques for how to control them. We typically do 9 sessions, 3 each in spring, summer, and fall. The classroom portion of those sessions have now being done by webinar. Lots and lots of pictures. The field walks are on hold until we figure out how to do those successfully. But in the meantime, if you have plant ID questions, please send photos of the plants to info@blueridgeprism.org or any other questions. We continue to publish quarterly newsletters along with occasional alerts saying, hey, here's a particular thing you can do right now for this plant. It's the right time of year to do it. There's lots of materials available through our website at blueridgeprism.org. And over the last 6 years, we've provided roughly $1 million in funding to help landowners pay for invasive plants removals, including $640,000 through the NRCS. That's helping 94 landowners treat 2,000 acres. That program's got almost another year to go. We're well into a DuPont grant for 5 years of treatment at 6 wavy leaf sites. And a new grant from the U.S. Forest Service through the Department of Forestry to work on wavy leaf at several other sites. And we're now up to 2,000 people on our email list. Things we're doing statewide, and a lot of statewide activities have slowed or stopped at the beginning of 2020 with the legislative session and then the pandemic coming on top of that. But as circumstances permit and as people now finding the time, we're re-engaging with the 2 secretariats natural resources, and agriculture and forestry. And we also have various activities underway with key agencies that manage lands and help landowners. So that's VDOT, the Department of Wildlife Resources, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, Department of Forestry, VDACs, and we've also met with the First Lady, Pamela Northam. We are active in getting more plants added to the noxious weeds list. In July 2020, we got 6 new plants formally added to the list. And we're now working on the next round of plants to be nominated and sent through the multi-year process it takes to get them added to the list. Lots of work. If you want to help, we need volunteers to help get these plants nominated and pushed through the process. We also have a project federally funded underway with UVA to prove that we can use drones to fly over a large piece of property and use hyperspectral imagery to capture the reflected light from the plants and then differentiate the different species of plants and ultimately produce maps of where to find each species on the property. We're also available to help you if you're interested in forming another prism. Some other less familiar plants that you might encounter: a mile-a-minute vine is an annual vine, but it can grow up the trees just as faster than others. Japanese knotweed, if you thought bamboo was tough to get rid of, Japanese knotweed is even more aggressive and harder to get rid of. Wavy leaf grass, we're working on, that has the potential to be just as bad as stilt grass. You'll see Lespedeza cuneata showing up along roadsides all around the state. Lesser celandine is more a plant of the wetter areas and is starting to show up along our rivers. Persicaria can actually grow under stilt grass, so some people find that when they get rid of their stilt grass, they now have the Persicaria underneath it to deal with. If you've got a pond, watch out for hydrilla. It's one of the more common aquatics showing up. And if you get any of those mysterious seeds in the mail, particularly from China, report them to your cooperative extension, and whatever you do, don't plant them or throw them outside anywhere. Some other common kinds of questions we get from landowners, typically it's how to deal with a specific plant or how to identify what a specific plant is. Lots of questions around herbicides and how to avoid them or which ones to use. Status of biocontrols and what's really happening in that arena is another alternative for how to control some of these plants. If somebody's got lots of different invasives on their property, question comes up about how to prioritize the work. But we can help people understand what, how to do that. People ask, is this hopeless? Is this really hard? And can I really make a difference? And the answer is yes, you can make a difference. And yes, it is hard, but it's not hopeless. What natives should I plant when I remove the invasives? Big, complicated topic, and we have meetings and discussions around that frequently. Where to get help? We have some of that on our website. Where to learn more? Our workshop dates are available at blueridgeprism.org. And then some other things you can do to help, other than perhaps sign up on our email list. First, if you're going to do this work, understand what you've got and how to deal with them, and then you can set priorities and plans. Help your neighbors understand so you're not passing plants back and forth inadvertently. If you've got some of the less common plants showing up, please report them on one of the phone apps, either Maiden or EDD Maps. If you see initiatives happening to label invasive plants at the point of sale so people don't buy them by accident, please support such initiatives. Feel free to help us nominate more plants for the noxious weeds list, or volunteer to help remove invasives from public parks. If you're planting, plant native plants. And again, form a prism in your area or help us with the prism if you're in our area. Here's just 2 slides with some useful resources, identification and control information. These 2 books on the right are published by the U.S. Forest Service. They don't print them anymore, but they do maintain them and make them available for free for a download. So here we've also got in the middle here 2 books by Doug Tallamy at the University of Delaware. He's done some great work analyzing what happens between invasive plants and our native wildlife. And he's demonstrated the impacts of these non-native invasive plants and how it diminishes our native wildlife. So just some things to help you out. I hope you found this useful. Contact us at info@blueridgeprism.org if we can be of service to you, or if you've got any questions. And other than that, have a great day. That's what I've got. Take care.